Hey everybody, Flubier Collector here. Just doing a contest video response for Nostalgic About Baseball. Andy, congratulations on reaching 100 subscribers. I appreciate the opportunity for the contest, and hopefully it won't be too much longer and I'll be seeing that same milestone met. So again, congratulations, thanks for the contest. On my submission, my team is the Chicago Cubs, and what I want, in terms of identifying my all-time list, I really thought about Cubs that resonate with me, and in some way have a reason in shaping my love for the Cubs and essentially becoming a Cubs fan. So it's not who I think are the best players at every position, but essentially those that were most impactful to me and why I became a Cubs fan. So here's my submissions. Leading off in the one hole, shortstop, Mr. Cub, Ernie Banks. Ernie's the quintessential Cubs, and he's a Hall of Famer. The man with a let's play 2 attitude. Pretty much 19 seasons, his entire career with the Cubs, 1953 to 1971. Started off in baseball in 1950 with the Kansas City Monarchs, and as it relates to the Cubs, he broke the Cubs color barrier, becoming the organization's first black player. Just didn't seem right to not have Ernie Banks in my lineup. In the 2-hole, second baseman Rhino Sandberg. Played for the Cubs from 1982 to 1997. Played, I think, all but 13 games for the Cubs. Philadelphia Phillies is where he started out at. Anyway, my favorite player, obviously a Hall of Famer, 9 straight Gold Gloves from 83 to 91. Cornerstone for the franchise for the better part of his career, 10-time straight All-Star appearance player, 7-time Silver Slugger Award, and MVP in 1984. My favorite memory of Sandberg was the Ryan Sandberg game where he hit 2 home runs late off of Bruce Sutter, once in the 9th to tie and once in the 10th to tie. Cubs ultimately lost that game. I think they won that game 11-10. Sorry, but anyway, hitting a couple home runs off of Bruce Sutter late in the game made some dramatic moments. So anyway, Ryan Sandberg's my number 2 hole hitter. Coming in at my three spot, outfielder, sweet swinging Billy Williams, a 16-season player for the Cubs from 1959 to 1974. He's one of the legends that's still accessible to the public at and around Wrigley Field. An all-star lineup for the Cubs just wouldn't feel right without him. He's a very special player to one of my cousins, so I have a direct tie to Billy Williams, even though I never really saw him play live. Arguably the greatest Cubs outfielder ever. Played 2 seasons with the Cubs, I believe it was, before he actually finally won Rookie of the Year, because they were partial seasons. 6 times All-Star, and inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1987. Billy Williams, 3rd position in my All-Star lineup. In my cleanup spot, another outfielder, Dave King Kong Kingman. Surprisingly only played for the Cubs for 3 seasons, from 1978 to 1980. He is my favorite Cub of all time, primarily because when I was growing up, my parents ran a store, and there was a local gentleman that came in there that I, through my own child's eyes, I should say, thought it was Dave Kingman. It was looked identical as far as I was concerned. So I thought it was amazing that Dave Kingman shopped at my parents' store. I was a bit starstruck. I think I even might have asked for his autograph at one stage. One of my game memories of Kingman was a 3 home run game that he had in 1979 against the Philadelphia Phillies, where the Cubs lost that game 23-22, but he hit 3 home runs in the game, and the 3rd shot, I believe it was, stopped, as the legend goes, about 3 porches down Kenmore Street. If you're familiar with Wrigley Field, the left field street that runs behind the bleachers is Waveland, and then there's a street that shoots north called Kenmore, and he apparently hit it down the street and went three porches down. So anyway, that's one of my favorite memories of Kingman. Behemoth of a man, 6'6". He was pretty much all or nothing. Crushed it or struck out and went back to the bench. But anyway, he's my favorite player of all time. Dave Kingman in my cleanup spot. In my 5 spot, I've got outfielder Gary the Sarge Matthews, Cubs player from 1984 to 1987 for 4 seasons. My recollection of Gary Matthews, and I don't know if it's right or not, I just remember him having some crazy headfirst slides with his helmet flying off. I don't remember if it was a big wad of tobacco or chewing bubble gum, but it just, the way that I remember him, I don't even know if it's factual, but that's just my recollection and what I attribute to Gary Matthews when he came over. He came over at the height of the Cubs in '84 with their playoff run, and I just remember him, and remember watching him. Remember loving his nickname. Didn't know if people know, but he actually earned the nickname from Pete Rose when Gary Matthews played for him. He had a pretty dismal regular season, and in the playoff run, and I think it was in NLCS actually. He just went on a tear and had an unbelievable series, earned MVP honors, and as a result of his performance in that series, Pete Rose nicknamed him the Sarge, and it stuck. So anyway, Gary the Sarge Matthews, my five spot hitter. In my 6th spot and playing third base, I've got Ron the Penguin Say. Played 4 seasons for the Cubs, 1983 to 1986. Definitely another off-menu selection, predominantly known probably as a Dodger. I don't have a strong individual Ron Say moment. I just remember him trotting around, kind of this oddly shaped man with big mustache, and just being over there at third base, and in my eyes was playing some rock solid defense, and had a really solid year for the Cubs when I think in '84 was 25 home runs and 97 RBI to lead the Cubs in those categories. Definitely probably most remembered as a Dodger, specifically from the World Series that he participated in, where he got plunked in the head in Game 5 and had to be carried off the field, and then came back in Game 6 and was able to play. And the Dodgers won the World Series, I believe, that year, and Say was a co-MVP with 2 others. So that's about the Ron Say moment that I can remember. But for me, when I turned on the Cubs and watched it with my grandpa, Ron Say was the third baseman, and strong memory of him playing. In my 7 hole and playing at first base, we have Billy Buckner. Played with the Cubs from 1977 to 1984 for a total of 8 seasons. Again, just remember him playing a good number of years, that big old bushy mustache of his, playing first base, and just remember him kind of being a staple. And he was one of the Cubs players that I could always count on, that was always there, and I became familiar with. Buckner is most notoriously remembered as the guy who made the blunder for the Boston Red Sox at first base off of Mookie Wilson's base hit, or error, I guess. Anyway, got by Buckner, and the winning run scored on that play, and then the Red Sox went on to lose the World Series. So he's kind of been remembered for that play. But the irony behind that, apparently the story goes, is that Buckner in that series was wearing an old Cubs batting glove under his glove hand. for good luck. And unfortunately, perhaps the Cubs curse carried forward to him at Boston. So there is actually a Cubs tie to that play. And believe it or not, that ball sold at auction for somewhere around $450,000 at one point, and in the earlier days was actually owned for a period of time by Charlie Sheen. So little tidbits of information. Anyway, Buckner in my 7th spot. In my 8th spot, no doubt a surprise to pretty much anybody, playing catcher Barry Foote. Played 3 seasons is all, from 79 to 81. He was the catcher that I started watching. He was the catcher when Dave Kingman was playing, and in fact, Kingman hit 3 home runs in one game, and I think Foote hit 2 in that same game. That was the 23-22 loss to the Phillies, and Barry Foote was the catcher at that time. And I just remember him behind the plate, and kind of the first players that I really was strongly paying attention to as I lay on my grandpa's floor watching the game. So Barry Foote, catcher, 8-hole. And in the 9 spot, pitcher, none other than Hall of Famer Greg Mad Dog Maddux. Played 10 seasons in total for the Cubs, split between 1986 and 1992, and then again from 2004 to 2006. Maddux is likely my favorite pitcher for the Cubs of all time. Just really appreciated his lack of velocity, if you will, and his pinpoint control with his fastball, curveball combination. It's just amazing what he can do. I kind of equate him to Kyle Hendricks to today in terms of that ability to command such control and have such success with limited velocity in today's game. But in any case, with any luck, Hendricks will have a same Hall of Fame career, hopefully more years than Maddux even had with us. But anyway, Greg Maddux. Funny story with Maddux is he played a prank on Chris Bryant, where he was acting as a sound man for a batting practice session that they were supposedly recording, and Maddux ended up getting in there in his sound man uniform, or sound man costume, and was throwing batting practice to Chris Bryant out at their Las Vegas high school field. And Bryant was at first, all reluctant to have him throw, and then he did. And actually ended up saying at one stage that he actually thought that the sound guy was better than the first guy throwing batting practice. And in any case, it was really funny. Google Chris Bryant Maddux prank, and I'm sure you could find the video if you haven't seen it, but it's pretty classic. Anyway, that finishes off my Cubs all-time lineup. Hope you enjoyed it, and take care. God bless. We'll talk soon.